Hello. I very much apologize for being late, and I feel like that's become my MO in the past couple of weeks. I'm really sorry for that. I evidently am still not adjusting to my medication very well. I couldn't go to sleep till 6 in the morning. And then obviously because of that, I slept very long because I couldn't wake up because, 6 in the morning is not the best time to go to sleep. But hi, Darlene. Hi, Colin. Hi, Vasilka. Hi, Roman. Hi, Taz. Hi, 300 Life. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Armin. Hi, Pauliz. Hi, Theo. Hi, Gianmarco. Hi, Frank. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Joe. Hi again, Jillian. So yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to get to a regular time schedule where I would be going live at 2:30 every day, and I had all the intention to do so today. I do really need, I guess, to wait until my Cindy, until my medication is until I get used to my medication and I don't feel like a bus had run over me every day. So yeah, I really apologize for causing anybody any inconvenience today, because I'm sure that there were people who counted on the news being at 2:30, and well, they're 2 hours later. I'm not sick. Well, I'm not sick, Gianmarco, I'm not, yes and no. I have hypothyroidism and I had some trouble with my medication, and now I'm back on my medication. And one of the things with hypothyroidism is that you are incredibly tired. And with me, it's like, it's not just tiredness. It's like when I wake up, it's like it pains me to open my eyes. Like it is physically painful to open my eyes. So if I'm like not on my meds, and if I'm not, fully adjusted to them and stuff like that, I can't go to sleep because my schedules are like off, and then I can't wake up, and it's just like, it's a whole thing. But I'm here. And good to see you. Oh my gosh, hi Cindy. What is your deal? I realize my dog is a Karen. Yes, you are a Karen. Yes. What are you doing? Cindy today decided to ruin my hallway carpet. And by ruin my hallway carpet, I mean she wanted to go out again after she had already gone out. And instead of letting me know, she decided she would just poop on my hallway carpet. So RIP to the hallway carpet. It is now gone and in the trash because there was no way I could clean it out. And this is a very Karen moment from you, Cindy, because, I feel like every time you don't like something, you just lash out at me in various ways that I can't, that I can't control. Here's the thing. Normally Karens complain to the manager. I am the manager. So thank you, dog. That was lovely of you. I really so appreciate that. Hi, Kareen. Hi, Kamal. Oh, hi, Crazy Cat. But yeah, so this is my dog who's, what are you doing? What do you want? What is it that you want? Okay. Okay, sure. How can I help you? What are you trying to accomplish? So yeah, basically, it was a nice rug, Veronica. I really liked the rug. The only good thing is that I bought that rug at a hardware store out of all places, and it wasn't expensive. I think it was like $20 or something. So at least it wasn't like, a massive, at least it wasn't like a massive dent in the budget. And, hopefully they still have those rugs and I can go get one. And yeah, and so this is this is my day today. So thank you for patiently waiting for me to get my it together and for me to clean up after my adorable gremlin that I, from today on, am going to call a Karen. Yeah. Also, here is a funny thing. We're going to dive into the news today pretty early on into the show, or early on into the news cast, or into the episode. Oh, hi, Alec. Oh, Alessia, hi. Oh, thank you, Darlene. Oh my gosh, I've never seen that hat before. It's so funny. But so I just got a message from my aunt Anastasia, if you remember her, and so she, just like I, really likes sales of clothing brands, and so she just texted me and she says, I've been looking at Zadig and Voltaire stuff on sale, and I realized they have a lot of Z and V on everything. And it's actually, I don't know if you know this brand, but there is this brand and it's called Zadig and Voltaire, and it's a French brand, and and all of their clothes have Z's or V's on them because Zadig and Voltaire, and I realized I most likely will probably never gonna be able to wear them again, because I don't feel like wearing Z's or V's anymore ever, really, because it's like, carrying around a swastika, I don't think so. But yeah, I thought maybe someone of you who's French and loves that brand is gonna find this quite funny. So Polly's here says on YouTube, I see more and more info about Ukrainian army crossing Dnipro River. If this is true, then Russians are truly in a huge doo-doo. Well, there is a lot. So, okay, here's the thing. There are a lot of rumors. None of them are confirmed. So I personally, when I do my research for news, I consider things to have like a couple of levels of legitimacy, right? Some levels are just like people are saying this on Twitter, and that is not legitimate. That is just rumors, right? Then there is war reporters who have been on the front lines from the very beginning saying it on Twitter. And that usually turns out to be true. They usually follow OPSEC, but also when I mean war reporters, oh, thank you, Darlene, I mean Ukrainians. Like there are Ukrainian people like War Monitor, like Ilya Ponomarenko, and they release information, they address rumors, and they talk about these things. And so I would say that their account is about as good as an official confirmation from the Ukrainian authorities, but not quite. But I would say that if they are talking about it, then you can hold it as credible, because there are a lot of the times as like, well, again, so then you can hold it as credible, but still wait for the official confirmation, because that doesn't mean that it's completely valid, right? They don't have the prerogative sort of to make official confirmations. But if you see a lot of information about Ukrainians crossing the Dnipro River, or you see like rumors on Twitter or on Instagram or on some like Publix or on Telegram chats or something like that, I would wait on it and I would not take it as reality, because one, even if it is, unless qualified people are talking about it, it should not be talked about, because OPSEC, right? If it's true and no one's talking about it on a higher level, then there is a reason why they aren't, right? If it's just being talked about and nobody else is confirming, if it's just being talked about and nobody else is confirming it, then it's likely just rumors or wishful thinking or rumors for now, or something that looks like it might be happening sometime soon. And then there's the highest level of confirmation, and that is, appropriate Ukrainian authorities confirming it. Also, I just realized that my hands are a battlefield. Like, I don't know if you see this, but Cine very often, see this scar? Cine really, really likes to like hurt me. The beach emojis. War Monitor and Twitter. Yeah, well, War Monitor has a lot of really good information. I do try to stick with, so again, I follow a lot of different journalists. I follow a lot of different Frontline journalists. I follow a lot of different sources. And hi, Graham. Hi, Graham. I follow a lot of different sources, and I basically make my conclusions based on like a lot of different people reporting on the situation. But also, again, there is a huge difference between a confirmed report, and there is a huge difference between an experienced journalist making assumptions or analyzing the situation, and there is a huge difference between like not sharing things on Twitter, So there is that. Sweater attack from yesterday. No, this is just now. This is not sweater attack from yesterday. This is just Cine like pawing me. She's, oh, you guys can see her on TikTok, but yeah, Cine is just like laying down right here. And that, hi, Iron Man. There is some success on Svatova. Yeah, so there is actually a lot of information. Most of it is like rumors. Most of it is not confirmed. There is a lot of like commotion brewing on the lines of Ukrainian offensive. There are a lot of sort of, I wouldn't call them rumors, but there is a lot of buzz about a couple of possible Ukrainian offensives that are going to happen now that Kherson has been liberated, and a couple of different directions in which these offensives could be going based on the liberation of Kherson, and sort of like the next steps for the Ukrainian army that would seem logical and that would be helpful. So one of those steps is, I don't know if you have heard of this, but General Ben Hodges, he is a former commander of the Armed Forces of the United States, had come out with a, not statement, but he had said on record that he believes that the Ukrainian army can and will liberate Mariupol by January. And here's why that prediction seems to not be that far off, or not that crazy, or not that far-fetched. That's because one, Kherson opens a direct way to Mariupol. Two, giving up Kherson, morale, like basically not giving up Kherson, but losing Kherson for Russia is a really, really, really big morale blow. No matter how many times they try to spin it, no matter how many times they try to say like, oh, we chose a new state center here and it's not a big deal, and Kherson is still Russian and people in Kherson want to be Russia, so evidently, greeting the Ukrainian army with open arms. It's a huge blow, and it's a huge blow also strategically because of how Kherson is located. It's located in a very convenient place for a few different directions that the army can go from here. So there is Mariupol offensive that is being highly discussed, that is kind of brewing up. There is an offensive on Donetsk and Luhansk that is being highly discussed and is also brewing up. Because the way that the Ukrainian army right now is stationed is both of these things are quite possible at the same time with different units, right? Because of the liberation of Kherson. And I would think that that is something that's going to happen. And I would say that it's the goal for this winter is to bring back Donetsk and to bring back Luhansk and to bring back Mariupol, because those are incredibly, well, first of all, Mariupol just really, really, really needs to be liberated, because the stuff that's going on there is just, it's out of this world. awful. But and there is no heat, there is no electricity. It's going to be incredibly hard for them to survive the winter to begin with, because the city is just like, the city doesn't exist, you know? There is no infrastructure in the city at all. And I mean it so strongly. There is no infrastructure in the city of Mariupol. And so that's where, you know, this is incredibly important. Then Donetsk and Luhansk, I think, liberation of Donetsk and Luhansk would put, like, how do I want to say it? So in order for the Ukrainian army to liberate Crimea, we need to liberate Donetsk and Luhansk. And it's not because it's impossible to liberate Crimea without Donetsk and Luhansk. Like, technically you could, you know, go and liberate Mariupol and then just kind of move further south and south and south, right? But Donetsk and Luhansk are locations that have been under Russian control since 2014. Those are places where Russians are very heavily settled. They know the area, they know everything that's happening. They have settled in there. They know the surroundings, they know the terrain, they know, well, to the extent to which Russians can, because it seems like even if they are familiar with something, it's still kind of hard, you know, to gain basic common sense and knowledge. But I digress. So, you know, returning those territories back under Ukrainian control is going to be an incredibly hard blow for Russia, for logistics centers, logistics hubs, for morale, for, you know, separatists, for diversionists, for information that you could get through those separatists and diversionists once these areas are back. And also, again, it's a huge blow because it's something that is very difficult, would be very difficult to take back, because it's not newly occupied. It has been occupied for a very long time. Now, strategically, Crimea and returning Crimea is not only important because, well, liberation of Crimean Tatars who have been going through hell in the past couple of years with the under Russian control, who have been quite literally unleashing another genocide on them, you know, but also because Putin got an incredible amount of boost in his popularity, in the popularity of his performance, through returning Crimea home. And losing Crimea is the end of Putin. Not that, you know, with the end of Putin, all of the world's problems with Russia are going to go away, because they're not going to. It's not just Putin, and I say this all the time. It is the Russian society, it is the Russian elite, it's the entirety of Russia. We don't have a Putin problem in the world, we have a Russia problem in the world, unfortunately, at the moment. And that's the problem of mentality, it's the problem of generations of certain, like, superiority complex. It is a lot of that. But if Putin loses Crimea, that might shake up the Russian society to the idea that something, in fact, isn't going right. And here's the thing, you know, you can keep saying this land is Russian, that land is Russian, you can keep brainwashing people, you can keep telling them what you want them to believe, you can do all of these things, but at the end of the day, more and more things that keep happening, like more and more towns that keep getting liberated, and people keep being happy about them being liberated, and that's showing up on the news, you know, that would shake up at least something, because you can't keep saying, like, oh, these people are actors. Oh, you know, Crimea was under Russian control for 8 years, and somehow there were still Ukrainian actors living there ready for Ukraine to liberate them. Because that also kind of contradicts, you know, the mighty Russian intelligence and mighty Russian, like, army and all of that stuff, because how did they miss all of these people that were living there? And also, if there were all of these people living there, then it wasn't like Crimea wasn't, you know, unanimously happy to be a part of Russia. So yeah, so there is a lot going on there to that extent. Also, an interesting thing. So G20 summit has started and Lavrov is already at the hospital, which yesterday on our stream, we were just talking about how all of the world leaders, or rather most of the world leaders from the US, from the UK, from Europe, agreed to give Lavrov a cold shoulder and boycott all of his speeches. And to be honest, I didn't see exactly what happened, but I did see that there is an update on that in my news. But I've been seeing a lot of memes of Lavrov falling down on stage. So it looks like maybe he had tripped on something, and provided his tender age of, of vampirism, I think he probably had broken a bone or two. But that's an assumption, so we're going to get to that. I'm going to find out with you, but I did see that there was some sort of an incident already, and he is already hospitalized. So maybe nobody's going to need to boycott his speeches, and he's just going to not be able to perform them anyway. Or maybe, somebody just made sure that he trips because, he's just so lovely that so many people love him so much. The video, Zakharova video. And no, Lavrov has fallen and can't get up. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. So that is kind of that on the thumbnail situation. It is so I didn't want to reiterate that the reason why I chose today's thumbnail to be titled to be Mariupol by January is not just because Ben Hodges said this one thing and I'm like, oh yay, Mariupol is possible by January because one man said so. You guys should know me better than that at this point. I hope that me giving you kind of the predictions, or rather giving you the analysis of why I think it's possible and why I think that's actually what's brewing up and why I think that's the plan, kind of like helped. And I think it was a detailed enough explanation. So yes, so I do believe that Mariupol by January is not only a possibility, it's also the plan. I do believe that taking back Kherson, it opens up that opportunity, and it was always that was always on the agenda because, you got to be efficient. And while we don't want to just deep dive into like an offensive to not lose momentum and kind of, not plan it out very, very well, I think that it has been. And I think that the idea from the very beginning has been that you take back Kherson, you immediately move on to Mariupol. So I wouldn't say immediately as in like, we're going to see results in a week or two, or probably not even a month maybe, but who knows with the AFU. But I would say that they are most likely setting up and planning for a grand offensive in that direction, probably as we speak. So yeah, so I would say that hopefully maybe by New Year's, Mariupol could celebrate New Year's, as back under Ukrainian control. So yeah, that is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly sweet. Also, I want to show you something. I don't know if it's still on his story, but let me see if it is. Yesterday, I saw something incredibly sweet, and oh no. Okay, so it's not on the story anymore, but knowing this, wait, let me see, because he might have added it to his videos. No. Okay, so yesterday Torque posted something in his story. Torque has a pit bull. So Torque is an Azov serviceman. Hai Walasi is an Azov serviceman who is a native of Mariupol, who also was an Azovstal. There are interviews with him on my channel that are very, very interesting. If you haven't watched them, please do. But so he has a pit bull that they recently have brought back from Mariupol. The pit bull is 8.5 years old. Hi, Graham. And he's just like the sweetest, nicest dog. And Torque was talking about how, the dog is so smart and like he's so good at like he has like a very good like understanding of emotions and stuff like that. And oh my God. So he posted a video yesterday where he was walking his dog. The dog's name is Ray. And they met a cat, like a woman who was walking her cat on the leash. And so there is this huge pit bull, right? And he's like looking at the cat, and Torque, you could hear Torque in the background being like, hey, he's small and nice, like be nice, he's small. And so the dog literally lays down and like shows submission to the cat, being like, hey, I'm not scary, I'm not trying to attack you. So for those of you who are not very familiar with dog training, it's like the way that animal hierarchy works is if you are taller, right, you are like looking down on someone, you're big and scary. So if you're being something smaller than you, the way to let them know to be comfortable with you is to not only get down to their level, but also sort of like try and be under them. So try and be lower than them. And so that's like a submission thing. That's a thing with dogs or with animals to kind of show each other who's the boss and who isn't. And so this huge pit bull just lays down sort of to like to demonstrate to the cat that they're not scary and that in fact, you know, the cat should feel comfortable. And so I DM'd, like I messaged Torque and I was like, hey, how did you do that? Because Cindy, she likes all of the creatures, right? But when she sees a cat, a squirrel, anything, she's like, oh my God, I want to play with you. I want to play with you. I want to play with you. And she like goes crazy. And so obviously, especially cats are super not cool with that. And so Torque said that he got Ray when Ray was 1 month old and that he had taught him from the very beginning that kids, like little, you know, little animals, cats, everything, they are sacred and they're smaller and that he needs to be like, oh, thank you, Kay. And that he needs to be like mindful and respectful of them. And I was like, I'm like, how do you teach that? Genuinely, how do you teach that? Because this dog was like, so, you know, he was so like aware and he was so mindful and so like respectful. And I was just like, oh my God, you act like a human. Because Torque he wasn't like, oh, sit. He was like, hey, sit down, you know, like sit down, relax, you know, he's small and nice. And the dog literally first like just kind of looked at the cat and then like laid down, right? And I was like, it felt like a conversation, you know, not like a command or anything. It felt like a conversation and it was so sweet. I was like, honestly, I was I was shook. So yeah, there is that. I see there is someone new that I haven't seen before on Twitch who first asked me what I think about Navalny, and then what do I think about Hungary being part of EU but having pro-Russian stance. I mean, I've addressed it a million times. Navalny is a Russian nationalist or like a Russian superioritist, and Navalny is no better than Putin. He is just not Putin, and I don't have any positive opinion or idea of him at all. I think that oh my God, I'm so oh my gosh. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm laughing so hard because this is like so out of nowhere, but okay, let me finish what I was saying and then I'm going to tell you what I'm laughing at. But so basically, yes, Hungary is a part of EU and they joined the EU before EU even understood like what that entails. Hungary is under a fascist regime of Viktor Orban, and Hungary has always been pro-Russian in the recent like decades under Orban, and I do not have a positive opinion of the Hungarian government. And unfortunately, the government had taken over so much control that a lot of people in Hungary also support the government and the ideas because they have been living with them for a very long time. Two, Navalny is a Russian nationalist. He might be good for Russians inside of Russia, but he's also just another dictator. And the only difference between him and Putin really is that he's not Putin and he would be like nicer to Russian people, but his external politics would be just as Russian supremacist. So yeah, so now on to why I was laughing. So if you guys know, so as I was saying earlier, like for like birthdays, Christmases, things like this, I have to like point John specifically to what I want. Otherwise, it's just like nothing's gonna happen. He's like the kind of person where you have to like point blank show him what you want, and he's gonna go get it for you. But like if you don't, like nothing's gonna happen. It's just not. Like this is just what it is. You have to like point him to things. I, on the other hand, I love like, surprises. I love like picking things out. I love like figuring out what it is that he might want. I like putting effort into this. This is like my whole, I love figuring out presents for people, right? And normally he's like, no, I don't want anything. Oh my gosh, I don't need anything. Stop. And so for like years now, every birthday and Christmas season and stuff like that, every birthday and Christmas season and stuff like that, I just send him a link and I'm like, this is for birthday, please. Or like, this is for Christmas, please. Whatever. And so I just received a text message that says, for my birthday, I just want this, please. And a link. And I'm like, yes. I have like not brainwashed you, but I like, that I have taken a toll on this situation, and I'm glad that this is like, that this is the thing, but I did just, oh my God. Okay, sorry. I'm beaming over here because this has never happened to me before. This is exciting. This is new. This is different. And this is like, this is something else. Like, wow, this is kind of nice. I understand now why this is nice to just point somebody to something you want. But yeah. 37 years of marital bliss. Oh my gosh, you guys, Grumpy. He is a grumpy old firefighter, or Sir Grumps a lot, depending on which platform you are at. And he is one of the moderators. And so Grumpy is very, very happily married to Mrs. Grumpy, as we call her, for for a while now. And we all envy Grumpy a lot, and we kind of make fun of him because every single time we talk about marriages or anything, he says 37 years of marital bliss. And anytime, anybody has any problems, everything's great in Grumpy's world because 37 years of marital bliss. And he just commented that on TikTok, so I find it very, very, very comical. Also, Sinister, can I move you around over here? Cindy. Hey dog, move you over here because I need to, it's a little uncomfortable for me like this. Cindy. Hello, can you come here? Come here. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, good girl. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. Come on. Okay, good. Oh, good. Okay. Oh yeah. Don't make those noises, okay? I'm trying. So yeah. Cindy says no. Cindy moved, okay? Cindy was nice. Cindy was thoughtful. Cindy did move over. Well, nice and thoughtful are a thing I very rarely can call Cindy, to be honest, but oh my gosh. Speaking of gifts, I just put my tree up. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Well, see, it's weird because So I don't know if you guys know how like Eastern European or at least Ukrainian holidays go, but for us, like the big gift giving holiday is New Year's. So now I have like a fake Christmas tree, right? It's like a faux tree, and it's in my house, and it doesn't it doesn't wither because it's plastic. But before that, what I used to do and what I really love about being Ukrainian is that you guys start putting up like a Christmas tree in November, right? We don't. Like for us, first of all, we put things up closer to the holidays and then we keep them longer. So most Ukrainian like Christmas trees stay up through January. So what I used to do, which was really, really fun, is I used to buy trees, but I would buy them like the night before Christmas Eve because they go 50% off because everybody has already gotten the trees and they're going to dispose of them on like the 25th or the 26th, right? And all of those trees that weren't sold by like the 23rd or like the 22nd, they would go on huge sale. They would be 50% off. And so and so I would buy those trees 50% off. And it'd be so great because basically I would keep the tree through Christmas, through New Year's, and then through Ukrainian Christmas on January 7th. But then all of the vendors in New York City had realized that people in Brighton Beach, who are mostly Slavic, lots of Russians, lots of Ukrainians, they don't need a Christmas tree for the 24th. So they instead of putting the Christmas trees on a 50% off sale, they just take them to Brighton Beach and sell them there for full price because that's right about the season when people like, you know, start buying trees. But now I don't care because, you know, I have my plastic tree because I can't have a real tree because creature over here will probably, well, not probably, but actually will be eating the needles. So yeah. But yeah. But in Ukraine, we don't really put up a Christmas tree in like November or anything like that. We put up a Christmas tree probably around what Christmas is here, because a big gift giving holiday and the biggest holiday for like the tree is New Year's. And then we have Ukrainian Christmas. And then we also just, you know, our whole thing is that we just like the holiday spirit past the hose, you know, not like way before the holidays. So it's always been like, like a fun little experience until the vendors figured out that they could still make the full price at Brighton Beach and stopped discounting the trees. And now, I can't buy them for the same amount anymore. But at the same time, that started happening the same year that I got Cine, and I can't have real trees anyway. So, you know. Also, I do really love putting up a Christmas tree, and I do really love decorating a Christmas tree. So you're definitely going to see a bunch of really cute little Christmas things. And it's been like years that I've been trying to do one of those like Christmas, you know, one of those like family Christmas cards and send them around. And we never have like the time to do so. So this year I'm going to try my best to do that. We'll see. So yeah. So yes. I really, you know, I just like holidays. I really like putting effort into holidays. I really like celebrating holidays. Holidays are fun. Alrighty. Are we ready for the news? Does anybody have, let me actually go through some of the comments and see if anybody had any questions that I could answer. Oh my gosh. And also let me get a sip of my coffee. Cindy, don't make noises like that because today you are an ass and you have done some really, really crappy things. Also, oh my God, it's 5 p.m. and it looks like it's midnight outside. Hi, Forrest. Kherson watermelons on the Christmas tree. Oh my God, yeah, I do really want like a Kherson. So what I used to do is like Christmas dinners. So I would throw like Christmas dinner parties. They're not like really parties, but they're Christmas dinner parties. And like Christmas soirees, I guess. And so what I would have everybody do is I would have every person bring their own Christmas tree decoration to like put on the Christmas tree. And so that's what I love doing. And this is like a tradition that's been going on. And the Christmas tree started with just like being this super well designed, like beautifully decorated tree to this like complete mess of of different Christmas decorations. And so, yeah, I absolutely love Christmas tree decorations. I usually also buy them at like West Elm and Anthropology and stuff like that, because again, I buy them like 5 days before Christmas. And at that point, they're super discounted and they're like $1 or $2. And they're beautiful, like very, very well done decorations. So that's something I really like doing. And that's something I'll be doing this year as well. And yeah, so if anybody has, if anybody has any Christmas tree things that they want to put on my tree, you let me know or send me links to them, and we can decorate the Christmas tree together. Because what fun is decorating the Christmas tree by yourself? Right, Gremlin? What fun is decorating the Christmas tree by yourself? Short pause for dog scratchies. Cindy, we're gonna see Daddy today. Daddy. Daddy? 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 Okay, she's too sleepy. So yeah. Hang an ornament for Ukraine this year. Oh, thank you, Look Back. Okay, so the armed forces of Ukraine should take advantage of the mistake of the president of the aggressor country, Vladimir Putin, who encourages his troops to conduct offensive actions. Analysts of the Institute for the Study of War believe. This is like the most random, most vague analysis ever, but basically, they're saying that our armed forces need to take advantage of the fact that Putin doesn't like strategize. He just wants his army to keep going and pushing and pushing and pushing, even in places in which, like, it's kind of like it's a grave mistake. Ukrainian defenders have already liberated 12 settlements in Luhansk region, said the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration. According to him, the advance is not easy and every meter is very difficult. And that's true, first of all, weather. Second of all, as I said, unlike other places, unlike other territories that we're used to hearing about, Luhansk has been under Russian control for almost a decade, for 8 years. And Russians are very settled there. They know the terrain. They know where ammunition depots are. They know what the supply chains are like. They know the forests. They know everything. So it's not as so they have an advantage in sort of like in reconnaissance there, right? And they're settled. Again, it's kind of like they've put their claws into that territory. I'm sorry, I just saw something very strange. So someone's asking me on TikTok, and I quote, Yulia, is your wife? ? Yulia is me. Yulia is me. There is no other Yulia in my household that could be my wife, and no. Anyways, losses of the Russian occupiers in Ukraine are 81,370 personnel. Czech Republic raises money to buy anti-aircraft systems for the armed forces of Ukraine. It is planned to purchase 15 mobile anti-aircraft guns, named Victor, which will help the military to shoot down Iranian drones. U.S. to announce sanctions against 42 individuals and companies that help Russia buy weapons, according to Reuters. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov taken to the hospital after arriving at the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesian officials say. Oh no, poor Serge. I hope he is okay. President Zelenskyy arrived in Kherson, according to Reuters. So today Zelenskyy came to Kherson to see for himself what's been happening there, what's happened there. He had said, hello to the people. He had a speech in Kherson, him and his team looked at the damage and everything that had transpired there. And yeah, it was very beautiful to see the president of Ukraine in a Ukrainian city that has been recently liberated from Russian occupation. And everybody was incredibly happy to see him there. There were crowds of people who wanted to take pictures of him. There was a video of like him standing in the main square and someone from the window like taking pictures and videos of him and and saying Slava Ukraini. And it was like the cutest thing, So here, oh, this is the video. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, it's right here. Look at that. I don't even have to look far for it. So Lookback says that was cool, especially with the city being in the Russian range. Took some balls, and Putin can't even show up at the G20. Well, this is not the first time that Zelenskyy shows up on like a frontline city. Yes, Kherson is in the Russian range, but that's the whole thing about Zelenskyy. This is one of the reasons why it's so funny to us when people say Zelensky's regime or like the United States puppet president or something like that, is because we didn't like immediately go, Zelensky's the best at the beginning of the invasion. In fact, we were horrified. We were terrified that he's our president because we didn't know what he was going to do. We didn't know how he was going to act. Frankly, we all expected him to like run away with the speed of the light, evacuate, and literally leave us and just like have us figure it all out on our own. So when he didn't, when he said, I need ammo, not a ride, when he stood up to world leaders, when he was fighting for us, when he was fighting for the recognition, when he was fighting for ammo, when he was fighting for like foreign relations and stuff like that, we got to love him. And the reason why we love him, and the reason why we trust him, and the reason why we are happy that he's our president is not because we like cultishly followed him before. We didn't. In fact, like he was losing popularity really fast because we didn't know what to expect from him, right? But because he does these things, because he's not scared of Putin, because he stands with the people, because he puts himself in dangerous situations, because he goes to the frontline cities, because he talks to the military, because he's like, one-on-one, eye-to-eye level with them. That's why we respect him so much. Not because he's our president and we just blindly follow him. No, we respect him because he had earned our respect, and he continuously keeps earning and reaffirming our respect. So yeah, that's why it's super, super funny and super silly and really hurtful and like incredibly annoying when Western, Western people who have no idea of what is even happening and didn't know what Ukraine was until like February 24th are like, you don't even understand. It's a Western puppet president. Like you just blindly follow him and you don't criticize him and stuff like that. First of all, that's blatantly not true. Second of all, like he's a democratically elected leader who was elected with a landslide. Like I think he got 76% of the vote. I might be off on like 70 what, but it was like 74, 72, 76, something like that. It was in the 70s, okay? He got a landslide win in the election. 1. 2, for people saying that it was like, that it was a Western job or something like that, and that he's like some sort of an anti-Russian person, most of the people who like, the percentages of the people in Eastern states that voted for him are higher than percentages of the people in Western states. More than 86% of the people in the East voted for Zelenskyy. So he actually had the highest success rate in Eastern Ukraine. Then third, his numbers were falling down. His popularity rating was falling down because we as a nation actually thought that he might be becoming pro-Russian, and he might have lied to us because we are used to that happening with our presidents. We thought that in the case of the invasion, he was going to give us up. We thought that he's not working in our army. We thought that he might be tanking our economy. We thought that he had relationships with Russia. We didn't know anything. And a lot of our criticism was coming from the fact that we thought he was going to leave us like for ground meat if Russia were to attack us. And so people really like to bring up like, oh, Zelenskyy's ratings were terrible and then the war started and now his ratings are really good. See, this is Western meddling. Like it's not Western meddling. It's that the whole nation didn't know what was going to happen because we didn't have a trust in our leader, because we were traumatized, because every leader before him basically flushed us down the toilet when it came to Russian aggression. And then this guy stood up. He stood up and he stood behind us. And he stands behind us and he will stand behind us. And he's not scared. He's had like so many assassination attempts. It's not, you know, most people don't even have that many assassination attempts in their entire life, not in 1 year. And he still continues going, and he still continues showing up, and he still continues answering, and he still continues telling the world to stop being scared of Putin. And he's the man who's on Putin's highest hit list. So yeah, that's why we like him. That's why we respect him. That's why we changed our opinion about him. Because he stopped just talking and he started acting. And we saw action, and that is progress, and that is worthy of a nation trusting him. So yeah, I just wanted to, you know, bring up these popular things of Russian propaganda. Also, while talking about Russian propaganda and talking about talking points, so I'm working on a little project that the working name of the project, let me just move a little bit. The working name of the project is Shit They Say to Us. And the project is basically, if you are a creator on this or any other platform and you are Ukrainian, or you talk about Ukraine, or you talk about Ukraine in general, maybe not on a platform, but a lot, and you have had interactions with Russians, I don't mean Russian trolls. So I don't mean like the stupid narratives of like, oh, Bombili Bombast for 8 years, or like radioactive pigeons coming from like clearly fake accounts, right? I'm not talking about standard Russian narratives. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be since the full-scale invasion. It could be from 2014. It could be from earlier. But if you are a person and you have had interactions with Russians, good Russians, bad Russians, whatever Russians, if you're Ukrainian, if you are European, if you are American, whatever you are, if you have had interactions with Russians, please DM me the craziest stuff that Russians have ever said to you. I will give you an example. My friend Ola on Twitter had reacted to my post on Twitter about this, and she was like, oh my gosh, where do I start? But here is what I'm looking for. So I've actually gotten a lot of DMs, which I'm very grateful for. And a lot of people have stories. So Evie, it doesn't have to be interactions on TikTok. It could be interactions in real life. It could be interactions on chat roulette. It could be interactions literally anywhere. But it's sort of to show Russia's true nature, and not only through this invasion, but before, right? So here is what my friend Ola had to say. I'll give you an example of like what shows. I'll give you an example of like what shows Russian true nature, right? So here's Ola's tweet. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna read you what she says. Asked my little brother, 12 at the time, whether if he's in danger, he'd go to a Russian soldier or an American one. My brother said, why would I be in danger though? Same Russians then said to him, his country doesn't exist and he's a Russian. I stepped in and they backed off, but they literally only started talking to us because they heard us talk Russian. Never again have I made a mistake of talking Russian in public. When I was 12, this boy my age from Russia that was in a summer camp in the UK with me asked, how did you fly here? I thought you guys didn't have phones. When the full-scale invasion began, I got a message from someone I knew from school in the UK, Russian girl. She said, I'm sad for you guys, but Zelenskyy sniffs cocaine. I know this because my family knows his family. When I posted about full-scale invasion on February 24th, I received an influx of, we can't do anything. Ola posted a lot, actually, and she has a lot of these interactions. On TikTok, I've been told by them multiple times that if I'm from Donetsk, there is no way I'm ethnically Ukrainian. That no one speaks Ukrainian in Donetsk Oblast or in Crimea. That Ukrainian is a dead language anyway. In the beginning of a full-scale invasion, I was shopping at I was like buying myself, like, I don't know, some sort of like a little chain, whatever. I went to like a cute little neighborhood store. I was like really stressed and I just wanted to do some retail therapy. And so I was shopping for some like home decor and whatever at the store where I used to usually shop. And there was a new like sales associate or a sales associate I've never seen. And I heard that she has an Eastern European accent. So like kind of like, you know, like you could tell she speaks, you know, either Belarusian or Ukrainian or Russian or like, you know, or like something from of that nature, right? Like maybe Czech, you know. And so I asked her and she goes, oh, I'm Russian. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, why, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm Ukrainian. And she's like, oh my gosh, oh my God, that's horrible. You know, that's so horrible. How is your family? And I'm like, oh, they're okay. Honestly, I mean, like they're in Lviv. And I was like, wow, this is, you know, like maybe an adequate Russian, you know? And I was like, they're in Lviv. So I'm, you know, I'm lucky as far as Ukrainians go. And this woman goes, you know, my family lives in Belgorod. That's the town right on the border with Kharkiv where, you know, those missiles were flying back and like that town where they sort of, you know, they launch a lot of stuff from. And Kharkiv is bombed all the time. So people in Belgorod can hear it. And she was like, you know, it's so awful. My family lives in Belgorod, and every day they hear all of these explosions and like all of this artillery and just planes and all of this stuff, and it's just horrifying what they have to go through. You know, they hear it all the time. It must be so scary. I mean, it's awful. It's so awful. Oh my gosh. I'm sure you understand. It's yeah. It's just the people who have to, like, you know, there's just so much that people have to go through in this war. So it's not the people in Kharkiv that are getting bombed that have it difficult. It's the people in Belgorod who hear people in Kharkiv getting bombed who are going through so much. So yeah, this kind of stuff. I really want to, because there is this like rhetoric that I'm so tired of like good Russians against the war, like the decent Russians, and like the Russians who are so like, you know, they're just such good people against the war. But the thing is, like, they say, oh, I don't support the war, and people are like, you're so good. But then you hear things like this. You hear things like this, you know? And it's kind of like, this is most of their, you know, this is most of how they react and how they act and how they think. And so I really want to illustrate kind of Russian reactions and what the majority of the body of the Russian population thinks and how they think actually through these real interactions with Russians. So if you've had these interactions, if you've had interactions with Russians, whether it be in real life, whether it be in whether it be in real life, whether it be in you know, in online, whether it be on chat roulette, whether it be on TikTok, whether it be on YouTube, but I don't mean trolls, I mean like actual, you know, interactions where you were told something ridiculous by a Russian, you know? Please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram, the same handle as here. You can write it in the comments of my latest video, because I posted a video about this, asking people to share their experiences. You can respond to my thread on Twitter. I've opened my DMs on Twitter. You can also DM me on Twitter, same as here handle. But please, I would really like to hear your stories, because I'm working on a little project. It's a series, it's a YouTube series that working name of it is bleep they say to us, and it'll be like bleep, like, you know, I just can't put the right word in the title of a YouTube video, but it's like bleep good Russians say to us, or like bleep Westerners say to us, or, you know, kind of like to demonstrate like the things that we have to go through on a daily basis, sort of from, you know, from these just interactions. Oh, Armin, did you post your quote? Armin, so Armin's quote of the day is up, and it has been up since the very beginning. It's just that I was late and I didn't see it. Okay. The Buddha said, "A fool who knows about his stupidity is wise, at least to that degree. But a fool who thinks he's wise is a fool indeed." Russians thought they understood Ukraine. They were wrong. Well, that's the whole thing, you know, it's like, Russians think that they're better than everybody, right? And Russians think that they know everything. And that's their greatest weakness, because they don't. And they're not nearly as aware of things as they think they are. Thank you, DW. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hello. But so yes, so what I wanted to say is if you have experiences, please DM them to me. You can also email me these experiences. My email is connected to, it's in my link in bio. It's also in beacons.ai/Yulia in the description of this YouTube video. And for those of you who might be new, hi, my name is Yulia. I was born and raised in Ukraine. I moved to the United States when I was 16 or 17 years old, and I've been living here for the past 11 or 12 years. I know I'm very vague in that understanding. My entire family lives in Lviv, Ukraine. My mom, my grandpa, my dad, everybody, everybody lives in Lviv, Ukraine. And from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I have been online almost every day, with news broadcasts for the past 24 hours, and we dissect them, we discuss them, we talk about them, we give them context, we give them sort of like we dissect the news, and we make them more understandable, more relatable, and make more sense from the perspective of like geopolitics and history and stuff like that. I stream simultaneously on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. And if you prefer any one of those platforms and you're watching on a different one, then my handle is the same absolutely everywhere. It's YEWLEEA. And yeah, so that's that. On YouTube, I also have an interview with Ukrainian defenders of Ukraine. One of them is Aiden Aslan. One of them is Tork, who was the defender of Azovstal and Azov Regiment serviceman. And yeah. And welcome. Good to see you here. And I also do have a Patreon if you'd like to help with my journalistic endeavors, as I have made this my full-time job a long time ago. And you don't have to. It's not, you know, it's not expected by any means. But if you'd like to, it does help a lot. Okay. Hi guys. Hi England. And I'm very happy to see you here. Well, let's continue with information for the past 24 hours in Ukraine and Ukraine-related places. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova denies reports of Sergei Lavrov hospitalization in Bali, but Indonesian authorities confirmed it. Reactions of Russian channels to Zelenskyy coming to Kherson. That's it. I've run out of words. Why didn't they hit there? We would have solved all the problems. But If it's not treason, what the is it? Another goodwill gesture? People, literally, this is this is a Russian, like one of those like Telegram channels, like the news, the bloggers, and the blogger says Zelenskyy is in Kherson. That's it. I've run out of words. Why didn't we hit it? Why didn't we like missile strike it? That would solve all of the problems. But if it's not treason, then what the is it? Another goodwill gesture? And it's like, no, that's what defeat looks like. That's what defeat looks like. Thank you, Todd. Love the bleep lol. Yeah, I try. Hi, Kathleen. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin for refusing to attend the G20 summit in Bali. It would be good if President Putin went to the G20 summit, Scholz said Sunday in the Vietnamese capital Hanoi. But then he would have to face all the questions and all the criticism that has been formulated by many countries around the world. That is probably why he's not here, Scholz added. Yeah, that is exactly why he's not there. That's precisely why he's not there. He doesn't want you to criticize him. He doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Official raising of the state flag in the deoccupied Kherson. So this is the raising of the state flag in the deoccupied Kherson. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine may appeal to the G20 countries to exclude the Russian Federation from this influential group. The resolution proposes to approve the appeal of the Verkhovna Rada to the G20 countries to exclude Russia. In case of its approval, the chairman of the Verkhovna Rada, Ruslan Stefanchuk, will send a corresponding appeal to the G20 states. Ukraine has received 12 more M113 armored personnel carriers from Lithuania, 10 of which are equipped with mortars, Lithuanian Defense Minister Arvydas Anusauskas said. Anusauskas said. Что-то про Россию. Що ж ти не кажеш? Що то про Росію? Щось таке про Росію, так. Про те, що Росія країна-агресор, яка вбиває людей в моїй країні, насилує жінок в моїй країні, присилає своїх недорозвинених солдат в мою країну і намагається захопити землі вільних людей, використовуючи рабів для цієї місії. Отаке про Росію. Russia said it was ready to negotiate with Ukraine without preconditions. Instead, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry stressed that Russia is now in no position to dictate conditions. Ukraine's peace formula remains unchanged. Immediate cessation of the war, withdrawal of all Russian troops, restoration of Ukrainian territorial integrity, compensation for damages, and provision of effective guarantees of non-repetition of aggression. Under other conditions, it will be impossible to achieve sustainable peace, explained the spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Oleg Nikolenko. Oh, there is a person with the name Patriot on TikTok who says your president is a con artist. Is he? I don't know. What is he conning? What is his con? New British Prime Minister Sunak called Russia a rogue state and proposed a plan for its economic isolation, according to The Telegraph. In his opinion, countries need to continue to reduce dependence on Russian energy and produce more food. That's the thing. See, I really like that the UK Prime Ministers, 3 so far, always take a very, very clear stance on Russian aggression and never try to dance around the subject, and they really say it like it is, which is incredibly, incredibly, I commend it, because that's the only strategy that does work with terrorists. You can't not be direct with them. You can't not show them that you're not scared of them. You can't not show them exactly how much you don't respect them. And I really like that Rishi Sunak has been doing that. I don't know how good or not good Rishi Sunak has been. Okay. I don't know what his approval rating is at the moment, but I will say that I do like how he speaks in terms of the Russian aggression of Ukraine. But at the same time, I did like the stance of Boris Johnson on that too, and Liz Truss wasn't bad on that. It's just that they were incredibly unqualified to lead their own country. But yeah. Also, what was it? There was something that I was gonna say. I had an opinion on something and then I just completely lost it. I'm sorry. Oh, it was about being a con artist. So it's really funny. It's really funny that, trolls come in and they're like, your president is a con artist. And I'm just kind of like, well, what is the con? Please tell me, what is the con? Because they love dropping this line as if we were conned into believing something. And that just shows how much of Ukrainian history no one knows. Because the reason why we are not reacting to this and the reason why this is so silly to us is because, in fact, I don't know what you consider a con artist, but this is the first time the president actually speaks for what we want and for what we say. And he just repeats it to the world as the face of our nation. So if you say that he's a con artist, then we are all con artists that conned ourselves into thinking that we deserve to be free people, because who doesn't? It's so funny. It's like, a con artist in what degree? What is he conning? What is his con? Even if you take away the fact that these are usually silly Russian propaganda talking points that are not supposed to make sense to begin with, right? But they have to make some sense. Thank you, Lisa. They have to make some sense, right? They have to be able to be dissected to some degree and have some sort of backing behind them, because then it's so easy to dispel. So my question here is to anybody who says Zelenskyy is a con artist, what is his con? What's his con? I'm waiting. When someone comes up with it, let me know. As of November 14th, Ukrainian armed forces liberated 52.5% of the territories of Ukraine seized by Russia after February 24th. Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Canada will provide additional military assistance to Ukraine in the amount of over $375 million, the Prime Minister Trudeau at the G20 summit. This will include military surveillance and communications equipment, fuel, and medical supplies. Oh, here is okay, so here is a video that I do really want to show you. A lot of the soldiers that serve in the armed forces today are from Kherson. And this is a very, very sweet very, very, I like to call them palate cleansing video of these soldiers knocking on the doors of their either childhood homes or where their parents live right now, and basically saying hello to their family members. And those family members being like, oh my God, you know, because they came to liberate them. And it's so incredibly, it's such a like pleasant and sweet thing to see that I really want to share it with all of you guys because, oh, okay. Why? No. Jesus Christ. Video file. Come on. Okay. There we go. So yeah, these are some of my favorite moments because, you know, this is quite literally like these sons liberated their parents. You know, these sons and daughters, well, in this particular video, it's just sons. Is the music the correct speed? No, it isn't. But in this, you know, in this particular case, it's the sons and daughters. In this particular case, it's just the sons, but these sons and daughters quite literally came and liberated their parents. But no, this song was not the correct speed. The correct speed is something along these lines. And pardon for my singing right now because today my voice is also awful. It's not like it's ever good, but it's about Даби не був, не забуду дім. Хочеш закрити мене, як бігуді, я закритими очима знайду, де мій двір. Даби не був, не забуду дім. This was like a slowed down version of this. But yeah, it's usually a little faster. So yeah. I went to Churchill. I came to service and didn't feel well. Wait, I'm very confused. It's from Kalosh. It's from Skovka and Kalosh, I think. EU officially launches training mission for Ukrainian military on its territory. The mission will involve 15,000 military personnel. US President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping agreed at the talks in Bali that nuclear weapons should never be used, including in Ukraine. This is, this is a big one because this is, again, the Chinese president speaking out as directly as the Chinese president can against Russian aggression and Russian threats to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He's letting them know very directly that he does not consider the use of nuclear weapons to be something acceptable. So here is Zelenskyy awarding the title of Heroes of Ukraine to the liberators of Kherson. I'm sorry, guys, that I'm laughing, but I want to show you something. So Cine just decided to move over. And this is now what it looks like. This is Cine just kind of chilling over there. The way Cine does. So just wanted you to see the little gremlin. Maybe, oh, there we go. You can see me and gremlin at the same time. Hello, gremlin. Okay, so here is Zelenskyy awarding Heroes of Ukraine in Kherson. Привіт, Василько. Now Cindy's not out. She's awake because she hears the door. But it's funny. I really like she's like using me as a pillow. Like, look at this. Look at this little paw. For the first time since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Ukrzaliznytsia resumes passenger rail service to Mykolaiv, which is a big deal. Thank you, Todd. Привіт. Ти в роботі чи звідки? Ти був на роботі? Я ніколи не знаю твій графік. Я постійно дивуюся, що ти вдома, постійно дивуюся, що ти не вдома. Oh my gosh, thank you, Suzanne. Sid. Wake up, Grumpkin Garbage. Garbage fire. Garbage fire. Garbage fire. Hello. Hello. What was I? Where was I? I was at something. Oh, for the first time since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Ukrzaliznytsia resumes passenger rail service to Mykolaiv, which is a big thing. There are two scandals. Well, not two scandals, but two updates, like inner Ukrainian updates that I want to mention that are not very pleasant, but for the sake of transparency of this channel, I really want to talk about them. So one of the scandals actually involves, thank you, Yarko. Oh, hi. I'm assuming you're Ukrainian because Yarko is Yarama, right? So. Two things. One is a scandal involving Ukrzaliznytsia. There is something incredibly unpleasant that happened with Ukrzaliznytsia. There was a Ukrainian serviceman of the armed forces, Ярослав. Окей, приємно познайомитися. There was, в мене просто двоюрідний брат Ярема, тому також Ярко. So basically, there was a serviceman of the armed forces of Ukraine. He was traveling from Donetsk towards the western direction to see his family back home, and he was sitting on his seat, and there were passengers complaining that they can't sit in the same carriage as or in the same like car as this serviceman of the armed forces who's protecting their lives because he doesn't smell well. And I can imagine there might have been like quite a potent smell because, hey, on the front lines, it's kind of hard to take a shower, you know. And the like not stewardess, but the rail attendant, the journey attendant, she came up to this serviceman and she had asked him to spend his 6-hour journey standing in this sort of like have you ever been on like a Metro North or an Amtrak train, right? Like there is this little area in every car of every train where the doors basically open. That's where you leave the train, right? And so he had been standing there for the whole 6 hours of the journey. So the people who found out about this online were obviously outraged, and I don't blame them. I am too. And they complained to Ukrzaliznytsia about this, and so what Ukrzaliznytsia did is they called him privately, they apologized, they compensated him for his ticket, and they offered him a free ticket for his next journey, which, to be honest, is a very half-assed apology, and it's not enough by any means. And people are asking for that attendant, for the rail attendant to be fired, and for her to issue a personal apology to the serviceman, because that is like what she did was absolutely disgusting, was so incredibly disgusting and disgraceful and just shouldn't have a place to exist at all. Then another thing is that is like something that's being discussed in Ukraine right now is in the villages of Kherson region that have been liberated. There is a video of this older lady talking about how her neighbors have been hosting Russian soldiers, how her neighbors have been like washing their clothes, giving them food, writing in their BTRs, basically like probably giving them coordinates of the Ukrainian military, basically committing treason, right? And they were nice to these Russian soldiers, and they were talking about the Russian world, and they're clearly, they're clearly like pro-Russian even after the occupation and all of this. And they were basically like feeding these soldiers and stuff. And so when the village was liberated, the people who were helping with the referendums, they were all taken to jail for collaboration. But these people who were housing and feeding and cleaning Russian soldiers, they're just living their lives. And this lady goes like, well, I don't understand how I'm supposed to live next to this person in the same village if they're clearly like a traitor, they're a treasoner, they were helping the Russian military. But it's hard to prove, so no one's doing anything about it because they weren't like collaborating on like a legal scale of referendums and stuff like that. And she's like, I myself like want to go and show them what I think about them. But she's like, I don't want to go to jail, but like if no one's gonna do this, then I have to do this, And it's really sad because there are probably like a lot of people that we say that they change their shoes. We call them shoe changers because they, now that Ukraine took back over, and now they have to be pro-Ukrainian. But when Russia took over, they were pro-Russian, and they just kind of like they are collaborators. And there should be this sort of law that kind of deals with this, because they shouldn't just be living freely in their houses in that village and just completely not bear any responsibility for helping the Russian army. And this lady was saying that when she had asked her neighbor, who are these? She's like, oh, these are my nephews. And she's like, Dagestanis are her nephews, Buryats are her nephews, Russians are her nephews. She has so much family of nephews, that are just coming over in hordes. And she's like, there were like hordes of people. There's like 50 people. She's like, what, she has 50 nephews? And that's a very upsetting thing that has been going on, that we don't know how to deal with yet, and hopefully will be figured out sooner or later. And another thing that's actually a good update. So we have this city called Ternopil in Western Ukraine. Sorry, but you're very narrow-minded. Okay, well, what can I tell you? I think takes one to see one, huh? But so, what was I gonna say? Someone please remove the troll. Hey guys, could you please remove the troll? Guys, can you please remove the troll? Thank you. But so another update that I wanted to share that I thought was very funny and like cute, sort of. So in Ternopil city, it's in Western Ukraine. It's actually not far away from Lviv. They have come up with a new law. So Ternopil is known for its horrible advertisement policies. So like you will look at any given building and it's gonna be like slammed with advertisements. Like let's say you are going to a supermarket or something like that, or like a mall, and the entirety of the facade of the mall is going to be covered in advertisements of the shops that are either in this mall or maybe not in this mall, but are just advertising themselves. So basically like you will be going to like, I don't know, a phone repair shop, and instead of just having like the one logo on the outside of the shop, the entire building is going to be stampeded with advertisements of this phone repair shop, right? So it was just like gross. And Ternopil is a very like old school, beautiful architecturally city, and it's just all of these buildings were covered with like gross ads. And Veronica says, kind of like Times Square without the lights. No, see, Times Square at least has like modern ads, and they're like at least somewhat good looking ads, right? This was like old school, like poster type stuffs, like all over the buildings. You know what? I'm gonna try I'm gonna try to find photos. Okay, one sec. Ternopil. You know what? It should be very visible in any photos anyway, because it was just like so bad there. But anyway, so they came out with a law where not only are they now forbidding to do this whole like advertisement craziness, but they also came out with guidelines of what your ads and what your like logos and signs can look like on a building. And if you have one of them, then you can't have like 5 more and stuff like that. And they came out with parameters that these signs can look like, as in like you can't like, you know, you can't make them bigger than certain parameters. You can't make them smaller than certain parameters. It's just basically they all have to be standardized. And I thought it was like so cool. And you would think it's such a stupid thing, but it's like it changes the city so much. Oh my gosh. So, oh my God. Sorry, but I can't find, oh my gosh, I can't find these. Is there a function on Twitter? Is there a function on Twitter to look at something that you've liked? Because I definitely saw this the other day and I liked it, but I can't find it now. But yeah, so point is basically it's not gonna look crazy anymore, and there is not gonna be like an incredible amount of really gross looking ads everywhere in Ternopil. So that's very good news, because Ternopil is such a beautiful city and it just shouldn't look that way. Oh, there is an option on Twitter. Where is it, Theo? How can I look at it? If you let me know, I can show you what Ternopil looked like versus what it looks like now. Go to your profile view. Okay. Oh, likes. I see. Oh my gosh. I didn't know this existed. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not very good at this stuff. Well, it doesn't look like I can find it. Did I not like it? Oh no. I liked it. Okay. Okay, so this is what most buildings in Ternopil. This is a mall. Okay. Привет. This is a mall in Ternopil. This is that same mall now. Okay. So this is kind of like not the worst of it, but you know, look at this phone repair shop. It has like 75 different ads on different everywhere, and so they have taken them off and now have this like one Apple thing over there. And now basically these are the guidelines of how your signage and how your brand assets and your ads can look on a building, and you can't go over that. And I kind of like, they literally did a whole like graphic guide of what you can and what you cannot do. And I love it. It's funny because it actually has like, you know, all of the parameters, what you can do, what you can't do, all of the like all of the names, all of the parameters of them, like sizing, you know, distancing and stuff. Like as a designer, I'm so happy this was done. Not that this was like, you know, impeding on my life in any way, but it's just nice. But it's just nice. Okay, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Military Commissariat of Brest region of Belarus announced a tender for the printing of forms for mobilized persons in the amount of 50,000 copies by December 31st. Russian occupiers plan to evacuate all civilians from Crimea, Severodonetsk, and Rubizhne in Luhansk region. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. There is a rumor of that the armed forces of Ukraine are pressing upon Severodonetsk, and there is a rumor that the armed forces of Ukraine are really, really close to retaking Severodonetsk. And now there is this little thing that just came out saying that Russian occupiers are planning to evacuate all civilians from Severodonetsk, Crimea, and Rubizhne, which are, Severodonetsk is a key point in Luhansk region. It's a very strategically important city. Severodonetsk has an airport, and Severodonetsk is that city that was leveled incessantly around the same time Mariupol was leveled. At the positions left by Russians in Kherson region, they unalived gray hamsters were found. Gray hamsters are in the Red Book of Endangered Species, and Russians hung rare dwarf hamsters for fun, the Defense Ministry said. Yeah, Russians are, this is kind of what their humanity or lack of thereof is like. The UN General Assembly adopted a resolution on the establishment of a register of damages caused to Ukraine as a result of the Russian war. 94 voted in favor, 13 voted against, and 74 abstained. So against was Belarus, Cuba, China, Democratic, Central African Republic, China, Cuba, North Korea, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Iran, Mali, Nicaragua, Russian Federation, Syrian Arab, Syria basically, and Zimbabwe. Makes sense. Makes sense that these countries would be voting against, because those are Russian supporting countries. There will be no negotiations on peace without Ukraine's participation, said Joe Biden. Biden considers the liberation of Kherson a significant victory for Ukraine and states that the United States will not negotiate with Russia about Ukraine's participation. So there is that. The Ukrainian development, the bionic arm of the startup Asper Bionics, was recognized as one of the best inventions of the year by the Time magazine. Oh, thank you, Darlene. It adorned the cover of the new issue of the magazine. The bionic prosthetic arm that was created by Ukrainian inventors made the list of the best inventions of 2022 and was put on the cover. It actually looks really cool. I'm going to try and find you an article about this because it's such an interesting invention in the prosthetics world. I think it's so good. I think it's such a move forward in technologies of prosthetics, and especially now in Ukraine, provided that there is a war and a lot of people are losing their limbs and are going to need advanced prosthetics and stuff like that. It's an amazing, amazing invention, and it's a very huge step forward in the development of the prosthetic industry. Foreign Ministry spokesman Oleg Nikolenko urged Serbia not to issue a broadcasting permit to the Russian propaganda channel Russia Today, which regularly justifies aggression against Ukraine and calls for genocide of Ukrainians. Well, I mean, if we're talking about Serbia, then I doubt that they're going to take RT's permit away because, they're quite on the Russian side and they don't care about murders of innocent Ukrainians. They seem to be egging on the aggression and they seem to be standing with Russia. British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace praised Germany's contribution to the military support of Ukraine. Germany has had to endure a lot of unjustified criticism over the last 8 months, Wallace said after meeting with German Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht. According to the politician, Germany consistently makes a solid contribution and supports Ukraine with important arms supplies. Among other things, he singled out M270 multiple launch rocket systems, which were of strategic importance, and Gepard anti-aircraft systems. Well, I mean, I don't know if Germany was unjustly criticized. It's not about how many things they supply, it's about how many things they say they will supply and then don't. Borrell said Russia was defeated in Kherson, but still has resources to destroy Ukraine. That's an interesting statement coming from Joseph Borrell because, yes, sure, it has resources to destroy Ukraine with missiles. That's what it's doing. That's what it's been doing. And the fact that, like, he's saying it in this sort of manner, in this, at this time, and as a response to their defeat in Kherson slightly sounds like, like Russian glorification. It's like, well, they were defeated there, but they're still strong. That is not the reaction that you have to liberation of Kherson, unless you maybe unwittingly want to make Russia seem like it's still a superpower and it's still worth of being scared. Because the reaction that you have to the liberation of Kherson is you talk about the liberation of Kherson and about the tremendous job that the armed forces of Ukraine did, especially in showing Russia up. So that's just a strange sort of timing, that's strange choice of words. Like, he's not wrong, but as in, like, this statement had no place to exist for any reason, Zelensky's dialogue with a journalist in Kherson. So, here, I'm gonna play this for you full screen. So give me a second. RT is under US sanctions. Yes, but RT is in Serbia and in other countries, have nothing to do with the US sanctions. Okay. Wait. 1 second. All right. Present. So funny. It's like, do you want to have a presentation? And I'm like, yes. Yes, please.
Під'їжджає в зону бойових дій безпосередньо, і зараз за вашою спиною там річка Дніпро, і вони дуже близько. Ви могли це звернення сказати з Офісу Президента, але ви тут. Чому для вас це так важливо? І ми пишаємося цим.
Дуже дякую. Дмитро, чисто? А як же Херсонський армія? Ні, якщо чесно, важливо бути тут, важливо, всі ж ризикують. Військові ризикують, щоденно, журналісти ризикують. Ми ж також тут говоримо про Херсон. Мені здається, треба говорити тут і підтримувати херсонців, підтримувати людей, щоб вони відчували не просто, чи не просто неправильно стати, не тільки ми про це говоримо, не тільки ми обіцяємо, а ми реально повертаємось, реально піднімаємо наш прапор. Ну і хочеться, я скажу вам, ще по-людськи дуже хочеться якось такої емоції, енергії від людей отримати. Це також важливо, мотивує.
А ви вже пробували конвенційні?
Ні.
So I actually want to put somebody on the spot here a little bit, and I'm sorry, but there is Pavlik here, and Pavlik is Russian. Pavlik has spent most of his, I guess, adulthood fighting against the Russian regime. And, when there are Russians online speaking in English and being like, oh my God, I'm such a poor person. I can't do anything. And like, I'm so scared. And I just want the Western audience to hear this in English. And so I could get some pity. There are people like Pavlik. Most likely you haven't heard of Pavlik. And the reason why you haven't heard of Pavlik is because Pavlik speaks in Russian to Russians. And Pavlik has a TikTok channel where he rebuffs Russian propaganda to Russians. And this is a stupid like word to say, but Pavlik is a good Russian in my book, right? Pavlik is a normal person. Like, I hate this like whole thing of like, oh, good Russians, bad Russians and stuff like that. But it's like, this kind of sarcastic term, good Russians, came out because there are these people who clearly want attention, who clearly just want popularity from the West, and who clearly just want people to pat them on the head and be like, oh, you're doing so well, while they're doing nothing, right? And people are always like, oh, you just hate Russians, you just hate Russians. It's like, I don't hate Russians. There are just good people that are good regardless of being Russian or regardless of being whatever. And there are people who are Russian who want to be perceived as good for attention. And there are people like Pavlik who are good people, who are not here, to get attention from the West, for the Western audience to say, oh my gosh, you're so good, you're doing so well. There are people who are doing and not asking for your approval in what they're doing. And so I just wanted to say a big thank you to Pavlik for what Pavlik is doing. And I'm sorry that this was like a very long speech that most likely sounded at first more negative than positive, but all I want to say is that Pavlik is a really good person, and Pavlik is actually doing a lot. Pavlik is actually, an activist, and he is actually like changing things, and he's not asking for people to like him. And when people don't like him, he's not like there being like, but not all Russians are bad. Like, I've never seen Pavlik, like, this is my biggest problem. It's like, somebody will say to a Russian person, well, but this and that is bad in Russian. They'll be like, but Ukraine though. Or like, oh, Russians do this. And the good Russian person is going to come out and be like, but not all Russians. I have not a single time seen Pavlik take the time out of his day to explain to someone that not all Russians are bad or that he's not bad. He just continues doing what he is doing, which is like trying to show Russians what the fuck is wrong with their own country. So yeah. So so a moment of appreciation of Pavlik, everybody. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but but it is what it is. And I just wanted to, kind of illustrate my point on an actual example of a person that I consider to be an ally, on an actual example of a person that I consider is actually doing, not just saying, and a person who is, just a good person. So yeah, thank you, Gabby. Thank you, everyone. And, moment of public appreciation. Okay, I'm going to continue reading the news now. The occupiers practically destroyed the power facility that provided power supply to the entire right bank of Kherson region and a significant part of Mykolaiv region. Dear friends, there are already more than 20,000 of you. Oh, sorry. There's like sometimes there's like updates from this channel that I like to get some of my information from, and I'm just like, okay, let me read this by accident. So this is Yulia, do you have a better link than Amazon for Ukraine flags? No, but I will look for one for you. Public can be on live for interview, no? Well, if you'd like me to speak to Public, I would love to interview Public, but also that very much depends on Public, because Public is quite secretive with his location for some very understandable reasons. And if you guys would want to hear more about Public, then, we can do that. But I think that very largely depends on Public's availability, and I try not to, like, not to infringe on his privacy, because Public unlike most of the Russians who say they're scared and, the government is going to be after them, actually has some reason to be, secretive in his endeavors. So, so it's up to public is all I'm saying. Hi, Zoom chick. Well, I mean, actually, my position is very similar to yours, and there is very few cases in which, let me put it this way. I think that since my entirety of speaking about Ukraine online and speaking out and being an activist from the beginning of this, from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I can safely say that Pavlik is actually the only Russian that I have spoken to so far. I'm not saying he's the only Russian that exists that I actually have respect for, but he's the only Russian that I have spoken to that hasn't a single time tried to like place blame on me or on Ukraine or like, divert or what about or, not all Russians or kind of like just, I think like mostly when I'm speaking on the news about Ukraine and stuff like that, I very often get people from Russia who come in and they start saying things like, oh, but this, but that, and then not a single Russian outside of Pavlik has ever been like, oh, what can I do better? Or like, oh, how can I help more? It's always like, oh, but you this, but you that. So unfortunately, I wish that I have met, or I wish that I have met, or I wish that I have encountered more Russians like Pavlik. But to me, it looks like people like Pavlik in Russia are an exception rather than a rule. And I like to think that maybe there are Russians who are watching me that stay silent because they just, because they're kind of like Pavlik. They're not trying to, they're not trying to shift the blame, nor they're trying to be like, well, you also have issues, nor are they trying to sort of, prove that they're better than the rest of Russians or something like that. But so far, in my experience, in my 9 months of speaking out about this online, I have only met Pavlik that I very much like as a person. And it's kind of sad because I wish there were more people like Pavlik in Russia, but also, Zomchik, я з України. Я зі Львова, so it's not just support. It's my country. It's my country too. It's our fight. We're all fighting it together. Okay, Kherson today. This is the city that. This is, the city where a referendum, a totally real referendum, with what was it, like 70-something percent, 80-something percent of people supposedly voted to join Russia, right? All of them, are so happy to be a part of Russia. Ask what language taught in Ukrainian schools, the Ukrainian language or the Russian language? I don't know what you're asking. There is someone on Twitch asking this. Ask what language. What is the language taught in Ukrainian schools, the Ukrainian language or the Russian language? Mostly the Ukrainian language. However, in some schools, they teach you in Russian, but you also still have to learn Ukrainian. So I don't know I'm not sure what your question is. My gosh, you know what I hate the most? I hate the most when there is like a Russian person coming in here and being like, "Ты чё, мать?" Like, first of all, I don't know you. And, you know, I'm a random woman online for you, and I'm not much. And like, you know, like, there is so much just like disrespect and disgust when someone comes in to a stream of someone else and they don't like their words and they're like, yo, what's up, woman? What you talking about, woman? Like, I don't know you. You don't know me. To you, I'm Miss or Mrs. or I don't know, but much like mama, but it's like, you know, it's like a way of addressing a woman disrespectfully, basically. It's like, no. Oh, well, there is an interesting, you know, that is an interesting troll over here with some interesting views, but I'm, you know, I don't feel like addressing it. So I'm just going to politely ignore it. And Zomchik, well, most of my audience is English speaking, so that's what I do. I do that. Yes, I do want to. Thank you, Kat. But I do. But I do the news. But I do the news for an English speaking audience, so I can respond in Ukrainian sometimes, but mostly I speak English throughout the stream. So yeah. General Staff says Ukraine repels Russian attacks near 7 settlements over the past day. Oh my gosh. Okay, there is an influx of trolls on Twitch. So, you know, as you know, I really like to read you the troll narratives. So I'm gonna go ahead and read you this before I get to the summary of the news for today. What is there to respect you for your propaganda? So first of all, I've defined propaganda at this point so many times, and these trolls still don't seem to get the concept of propaganda. Like, you don't understand what propaganda is. When you do, then we can talk about it. For not taking out a single conversation with an expert. You were asked a question and you immediately fell down, went into emotion. It says a lot about your position, how fragile it is. Something tells me that this is the dude that I've blocked like 10 times already, because he likes to tell me that he doesn't care that I'm good looking. Thank you. Because to him, it doesn't matter what I look like. It's my words. And he knows that my words are wrong, and he's not gonna fall for my looks. Meanwhile, you know, I've never really talked about anything that has to do with anything like that. But you know, like, I blocked this dude a million times already, and I feel like he sometimes comes back and just likes to drop his wisdom onto me and tell me how I feel emotionally. You know, these kinds of things. It's like, you went immediately into emotions. It says a lot about your position, how fragile it is. I do appreciate this guy, because like last time he was trying to psychoanalyze me, and he was like doing a whole analysis and like going deep down into like what could have gone wrong in my childhood, you know, and stuff like that. And I kind of appreciate it, because like, hey, I used to pay a lot of money for my therapist to talk to me about this. Right? And it's kind of nice of him to unsolicitedly provide me these incredibly expensive therapy sessions for free on live. But at the same time, like, you're severely not qualified to do this. So, so again, I politely decline your psychoanalysis. But thank you, thank you for you know, for trying to be so kind as to provide me with this psychoanalysis for free, while a lot of people in the United States are making about $300 an hour for that. Thank you, that's very kind of you. I just don't need it. But if I did, very nice of you. Anyways. Governor says Russian forces injure 4 civilians in Donetsk Oblast on November 13th. I don't know why I said that so upliftingly. It isn't. Russian forces injure 4 civilians in Donetsk on November 13th. And as I've pointed out on multiple of my streams, for the past, I think, month now, there have been injuries and deaths of civilians in Donetsk every day now. Russia strikes Mykolaiv Oblast on November 14th. Reuters says Zelensky visits liberated Kherson. We went over that. President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Kherson. So this is kind of like, this is a sort of a, so this part of the news stream is sort of us wrapping up everything that had happened and everything that we went over. Associated Press says Russian foreign minister hospitalized in Bali, Indonesia. 2 of the sources said he was being treated for a heart condition. Russia's foreign ministry called this information fake. You know, anytime Russian foreign ministry calls something fake, you know it's not fake. You know it's as close to the truth as possible. Russia attacks Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv Oblast, injuring 2. Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv Oblasts injuring 2. Russian-backed militants in Donetsk Oblast convicted for attacking civilians in Mariupol. The militant with the nom de guerre Phil has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for high treason and participation in the activities of illegal armed groups, the prosecutors of Donetsk Oblast reported on November 14th. Ukraine's security service said that the militant had operated a T-72 tank during the hostilities in Mariupol and conducted at least 20 attacks targeting residential high-rise buildings in the city. Hi, Sasha. U.S. to impose sanctions against transitional network helping Russia to buy weapons. The sanctions would target 14 individuals and 28 entities that have been helping Russia to acquire military technologies for its war against Ukraine, according to U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Reuters reported. Reuters reported. Air Force says Russia likely faces missile shortage. Well, yeah, they've run out of most of their missiles and their precision missiles caliber. They have less than 120 left, which is a critically low number that and a threshold that no one usually crosses, but Russia is special. Watchdog says more missiles delivered from Belarus to Russia. UK intelligence says winter to complicate conditions for Russian and Ukrainian forces. Changes to daylight hours, temperature, and weather in the upcoming winter will create challenges for both Russian and Ukrainian forces, the UK Defense Ministry reported on November 14th. Any decisions that the Russian General Staff make will be in part informed by the onset of winter, the report reads. Reduced daylight hours will result in fewer offensives and more static defensive front lines, while the low temperature will put troops lacking in winter weather, clothing, and accommodation at risk of cold injuries, according to the ministries. Yes, so that's something that Russian soldiers need to worry about much more than Ukrainian soldiers because, well, our military is, well supplied in most cases. Well, much better supplied than the Russian military, although we do need a lot. Okay, so here is something I want to show you that's actually, I saw this yesterday and I was like, yeah, wow, this is so incredibly telling, and it's so little, it's so much said in basically no words at all. Zelensky's outfit is $237, full outfit. Putin's outfit is $23,900. Our military is clothed and with gear. Russian military has rifles from World War II and barely any gear. And I think this photo alone is worth a million words. Lithuania sends armored vehicles and ammunition to Ukraine. General Staff says Russian forces continue to strike Ukrainian positions in Kherson Oblast. Russian officials report explosions at a farm in Russia's Belgorod region. Zelenskyy says we are ready for peace, a peace for all of Ukraine. During a visit to the recently liberated Kherson on November 14th, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that Ukraine is ready for peace, but peace for all of its territories, which is why it continues operations to liberate the occupied areas. Foreign Ministry says Russia is not in a position to dictate terms of negotiations. UK to transfer first 5.8 million tranche of aid to support Ukraine's energy system. Biden says Xi Jinping agrees that nuclear war should never be fought. Biden rules out peace talks on war without Ukraine's participation. Ombudsman calls for returning accreditations to journalists reporting from liberated Kherson. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces canceled permits to access war zones and war-affected areas for a number of journalists, including CNN and Sky News, on November 13th. The General Staff said the journalists violated the rules by reporting from the liberated area before it was allowed. The decision sparked outrage in the media community. Well, I don't know what the outrage is about, because I know which journalists they're talking about, and they're the journalists that came in right as Kherson was liberated, and they had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea what they were dealing with. They could have ruined OPSEC very easily if there was something to ruin, or if they filmed a little more, or if they said a little more, and it was just something that shouldn't have happened. And you know the video I'm talking about. There was a video from Sky News from the guy that I was talking about yesterday, who was kind of like so lost, and he was like trying to speak to Ukrainians, and he was like trying to answer people's questions. He doesn't like necessarily speak neither Russian nor Ukrainian at all. He just knows a couple of phrases, and he was so incredibly lost. He was just so like out of place, and he was there like right as the liberation happened, which is not something that should happen, because press at strategically important actions like that is a really slippery slope, you know. Like, they could have screwed up so many things. It could have been still dangerous to be there. Like, they should not have been there. Yeah, taking away their permits I think is a normal thing to do. I'm not surprised.
On November 4th, 3 days after Ukrainian troops liberated the southern city of Kherson, as you can see, there's big still coming out onto the central square. What we can see here is that they've recently restored some element of phone connection, of Wi-Fi. So if we come closer, we can see lots of people on their phones making their first calls, perhaps to family. Over here, people are trying to charge their phones. But the really big event today, which really brought the people onto the square, was President Zelenskyy made a very surprise visit for locals and for the press. He spoke to us briefly, he met people, and yeah, it's really a very special time, because the Russian troops are still just across the river, so a distance of 6, maybe 7 kilometers away. We could technically be in artillery range, but as you can see, this doesn't look like a war zone anymore. This is a city that is captured with joy. Doesn't matter if there's no signal, there's no electricity, all the shops have been looted. This is just, the atmosphere here is really incredible. So yeah, please keep following us. We'll be here, we'll be covering all the elements of the story coming out of Kherson. Yeah, stay in touch with the Kyiv Independent. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is a comment here that Taz put up on Twitch, and it says, oh, sorry, that Evie put up on Twitch, and it says, I thought it was disrespectful because they were live streaming it, and some of those people still didn't have cell service to let their family know that they were okay. Yeah, and it was also disrespectful because, you know, these journalists kind of like, the people were hugging the journalists, thinking that they are the armed forces, that they are the liberators, you know, and these these journalists were kind of like all over the place, just being like, yeah. And they continued like kind of walking through these people, not answering any of their questions, sort of not giving them any, you know, any comfort or anything like that, and just sort of being like, yeah, so this is liberated Kherson. These are people and they're happy people over here. And it was just like, there was a lot ethically wrong with it. And I think that their permits being taken away is a very, very like normal decision. And I don't see any outrage from that. I think that they violated the rules of conduct of professional journalism. And they shouldn't have been there. Canada to allocate $500 million to Ukraine, sanction 23 Russians. General Staff says Russian troops to evict civilians from 3 occupied settlements in Luhansk Oblast. Borrell says despite Russia's defeat in Kherson, it still has resources to destroy Ukraine's infrastructure. Moscow's ability to inflict damage is still significant. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said it's not using it to fight the military, it's using it to destroy the critical infrastructure. Oh, thank you, Sophia, and thank you, everybody. UN supports resolution for Russia to pay war reparations to Ukraine, as it should, because it ruined half of our infrastructure. IAEA to send nuclear safety missions to 3 power plants in Ukraine. CNN says US looking at ways to modify advanced drones for Ukraine. 2 unnamed officials who spoke to CNN said that the US has been studying changes that could be made to the advanced Grey Eagle MQ-1C drones that would decrease the likelihood of sensitive technology on board the drones being stolen on the battlefield. Ukraine war latest. Zelenskyy in Lliberate Kherson says we are ready for peace, a peace for all Ukraine. Zelenskyy says Russia has deported 11,000 Ukrainian children. During his nightly address, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that according to the official data, Russian forces have deported almost 11,000 Ukrainian children to Russia. And this is just official data that we could confirm. So you can imagine that these numbers are probably much, much higher. Zelenskyy also said the list of children include those the Ukrainian government knows about, but the figure is actually much higher. Exactly. In order to return all the deportees, we will need the power of the whole world, Zelenskyy said. So yeah. Also, I see there are some questions on Twitch about my YouTube or about social media. So I stream on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube at the same time. My handle is the same everywhere. I'm live with news from Ukraine every day. Normally it's 2:30, but in the past months it's kind of been like chaotic and hectic because I have some health issues, and I've been a little, you know, off my game in terms of being able to sort of stick to a schedule and stuff like that. But I'm working on it, and hopefully we will return to a stable schedule soon. It was supposed to happen today, but didn't because, you know, things are unpredictable. But I stream every day. We recap the news. I do have a YouTube. I do have a Twitter. I do have a Twitch. I do have a TikTok. I also have an Instagram, but I mostly use it for DMs. But now that I've opened DMs on Twitter, that could be, you know, that could be a source to reach me as well. I always respond on Instagram. And on YouTube, I have interviews with Ukrainian defenders, and I'm also about to launch a new project on Twitter, and that I was talking about earlier in this stream. And I am also on Twitter, just unhinged commentary behind the scenes when I'm not live. And TikTok is basically your resource of if you ever have a question about Ukrainian geopolitics, history, or anything like that. It's your one-stop shop to answer all your questions. If you scroll far enough down, you'll most likely find an answer to every question you might have. So yeah, that is what we do. We've built a lovely community here, and I'm very, very, very lucky to have all of you guys around. Unhinged commentary is my favorite. Well, because like Twitter doesn't censor, you know? It's like here I have to bleep out the one time that I said the F-U-C-K word in this stream because, you know, YouTube is probably going to consider it community guidelines violation. So, or like some inappropriate things. So I have to, you know, I have to go and bleep that out at some point or take it out. So yeah. Okay. All right. So we have reached the Q&A / discussion part of the stream. It is 6:43 and I do have to be somewhere at 8 and I still have to like take a shower and, you know, and kind of get my stuff together. And Shinny is going to be so happy because Shinny is going to see her favorite person on the planet. But yeah. Okay, so any questions, suggestions, discussions? Thank you, Pauline. Oh my gosh, hi, Pauline. Anything that you guys want to add, anything that you want to ask? Now is the time. Speak now or forever stay silent. Avocado time. What is your opinion on Svetlana Tikhanovskaya? Well, she said something incredibly disturbing where she said that there is no free Ukraine without free Belarus. And I think that that was an incredibly upsetting thing to hear because that also perpetuates the narrative of brotherly nations. And no, that's not true. It's just, once again, instead of doing something and instead of standing up and instead of forming your own opposition and forming your own resistance, you just want Ukraine to do it for you. So I think that she doesn't have what it takes to be to overthrow a dictatorship in Belarus, and I don't think she has what it takes to actually make Belarus democratic. I used to have a better opinion of her, but then recently it's just been going down and down and down. And then Armin over here is asking. Okay. Armin over here is asking, do you think that the Putin presidency can survive another year of unsuccessful war? So I don't think it actually can survive 12 months of unsuccessful war because I think that his own oligarchs at that point are going to start taking care of it, because if he goes into another year of unsuccessful war, then Russian economy is going to keep tanking and tanking and tanking. And at some point, it's going to be noticeable even for those people who live without any modern basic necessities, because Russia is just going to run out of a lot. And I think that those oligarchs are going to start losing amounts of money that they can't afford to lose anymore. And they're not going to be able to go to other countries, and their assets are going to be frozen everywhere. And so I think that there are a lot of factors that influence that are hard to predict, like sanctions and like how the West is going to act and stuff like that. But if it keeps going in the same way that it's been going, with the same support that Ukraine has been getting, I do not think that internally he can survive another year of presidency. Not even because of the Russian people. I do not believe that Russian people are actually going to stand up and do something. We've waited for so long and there hasn't been a breaking point, even though there have been so many breaking points that you would think would influence something. But I think it's the oligarchs that are going to, lose it. So yeah. Hi again. Hi, Lucy. What's up? What's up, Grumpkin? Yes. Oh my gosh, Grumpkin. Wait, Grumpkin. I know you like your sweet potato treats. I know. Wait. Okay. Does Cindy ever bark? Very rarely. Cindy is not a barker, no. Is Sini a Ukrainian word? Does it mean something? Yes, Sini means blue in multitudes. So Sinya is a feminine of blue. Sini is a masculine of blue, and Sini is a multiple of blue. I call her Sinya, Sini. It's just Sinya would be a weird name in English because nobody could pronounce it, so she's Sini. Sinya. Grumpkin. Anyways, alrighty, guys. Since we're slow on questions tonight, bless you. I am going to go. You have some goo in your ear. I'm going to go and I'm going to. Why are you staring at me like that? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, we're gonna go. And Sini and I have some things to do tonight, and Sini's seeing her favorite person. And yeah. Okay, Lumpy. All right. So see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Sini. Say goodbye. Come on. Okay.